15 years. He created the first nutrition program for health clubs for Gold's Gym, which helped them with their premier brand. He also founded Apex Fitness. So he's done a lot in his career, operating in over 2,000 sport business globally and creating the body bug system that was used for The Biggest Loser. You know the show Biggest Loser? They use his brand of tracking. Partnered with Mark Mostrov and his team for Build 24-Hour Fitness, owned and operated the National Academy of Sports Medicine, and now owns and operates and is the CEO of dotFIT Supplements. Is that pretty much all of it, Neal?
No, that's plenty for sure.
There's much
yeah, but I think, in other words, basically, you got 40 years of real stuff here, is hands-on, and again, like this slide kind of tells you, we're in the biggest brands in the world, and you're in great hands when it comes to the information you garner from, what's happening in health tracks, from the practitioners there that go through our certifications, which is the largest in the world. So you've got all the right information. So today's going to be kind of fun, as I take this thing over here. In other words, generally I'm practitioner based. We're just doing lectures for our practitioners around the world. We've got hundreds of thousands of them, millions over, all of them put aggregated, and we give them the information that they need to help people in their discipline that join them to be able to live a longer, better life. That's what it's all about on the nutrition side of it, and on the exercise side as well. Like with the National Academy of Sports Medicine, we'll focus on certainly the nutrition side tonight, because you've got the practitioners in there that you're working with on the exercise side. But the bottom line is we're going to kind of go through this way our practitioners go through. So you're going to get it kind of in a fun way, more along the lines of the podcast that I do, where it's kind of fun. I'm going to do the best I can. I know I have men on this, so I get to swear a little bit. I'll do the best I can to stay away from the F word, but there'll be plenty of, going off script as we go through here. But you're going to get nothing but the evidence-based facts. That's all you're going to get. And you can figure out how to apply it as you need to. But the point is that all the practitioners in our clubs have this information for you. But you'll notice from the flyer that Victoria had sent out there, my hair is a little different color in that. And that wasn't too long ago. I just decided to finally stop coloring my hair. So that's what you're looking at today. But I'm still okay all the way around with that. All right, so let's get started to the meat of this thing. Staying young on your terms. Now, that's the important thing right here, your terms. This isn't about what I would do, some perfect diet. So you got to eat the Mediterranean diet. You can only do this. You got to stay in this groove here, and you got to do this much work. This is the best exercise, and this is that. That's not what this is about. This is about staying young on your terms, living your life, and how you make that work, okay? And then at the end of this thing, we're basically, really, especially for men over 40, we're going to go to that other side, the hormone therapy side and the peptide, and get my take on it from not just the people that in my orbit that have done things like that or asked me about it. I'll give you the evidence-based side of it, and I will give you what is going on today. And we're always ahead of the curve, as you probably guessed just from our resume. Okay, but at the end of the day, your nutrition is your fountain of youth. Because without good nutrition, you really aren't going to exercise. You're not going to want to exercise. But the big thing is, so you all know, this is what we're playing off of today. The undisputed, and there's not a scientist in the world that disputes this. It's on you can look it up any place you want, cornerstones of a long, healthy, active life. Because don't forget, you can live long on machines. We're talking about healthy, active, independent life, right? Are one, meeting nutrient recommendations. Call it a healthy diet, whatever you want. Unfortunately, no one eats that perfect healthy diet, but meeting nutrient recommendations, which drives activity. If you don't do that first, trust me, you're not going to want to be active in the first place. But it drives activity, and that establishes and maintains a healthy body composition. But nutrient recommendations, activity, and a healthy body composition. But it starts with your nutrients, because you're not born without it. Okay, so that's the bottom line. So we're just a simple solution for those of you, maybe there's none of you, I don't know. But if you're looking to feel, look, move, think, perform, play, and live better longer. Now, remember what I'm saying here. Live better longer. What does that mean? Play better longer, perform better longer. I don't know how long you're going to live. I can't tell you that. I know what the potential you have. You might get hit by a car when you're 30. You might get hit by a golf ball. when you're 50 and you're out, game over. But I guarantee what you're going to see today, you will be perfect when you leave. When you're 30 hit by a car, you're going to look really cool. You can be whatever you want or whatever happens along the way. So the whole idea is hopefully we know we have the potential to live a certain way. And I'll look at that right now. So these are the hardcore, unfortunate facts about our world that we live in today. And this is pathetic, by the way. I've been on this bandwagon forever, obviously, because this is just inexcusable. So just so you know, these are all facts. Everything's driven by algorithms. There's a link to everything. These are all real numbers. So just no one's making this stuff up. This is the real deal because I live in the scientific community. You can't make shit up. You got to back everything up. So here we go. The lifespan of the average American is 76.8. That's been going back and forth just a little bit recently, but that's close enough, right? 76.8. Now, the health span, which means you have a chronic condition, which means being treated regularly, is 64. 35 now is a play span. Now, that's a phrase that I coined. And what that means is how long you're still doing the thing. You can still do the things that you love to do when you're in your teens or your 20s. Okay, and the average American quits doing that around 35 because they're overweight, and then they try to go back and do something, like play basketball or anything else. They tear an Achilles, or their cardiovascular system's about 50% of what it used to be. They have all kinds of injuries, neck, back pain, and they quit. So 35, these are real numbers. And that's because people follow the recommendations that we all know you should follow, about 40 to 50% in the United States. Now, listen to this. Look at that last sentence. Americans, now this will blow your mind if you don't already know this. Of course, I've been saying this for years, but Americans have the shortest health and lifespans among all peer nations. There are 50 peer nations. That means they're equal in development, equal in economics to the US. We have the lowest lifespan and health span of all 50. We're dead last. Write that down. We have the highest healthcare cost per person. How does that make sense? Okay. 66% of every human being in the United States is on daily medication. Over 18 years. Sick number. Of course, as you get older, it's everybody. They're using prescription drugs regularly. In other words, they're caught in the big pharma trap. There's really no excuse for that. I get it to a certain extent, but not obviously. Those numbers are sick, and all countries make jokes about us. Now, in our healthcare costs, and this is dollar for dollar equal when you compare economies and everything else, are 5 times higher than the people that live the longest, and they live 8-9 years longer lifespans than we do. And health spans, same thing, 8-9 years longer. So how does that make sense? Not to mention half of our kids now have chronic health conditions. That's 50% of our children under 19 have a chronic health condition being treated with drugs regularly. Some sick numbers, right? I mean, that's just 100% preventable, just knowing a few things all the way around. You got to solve for the root cause. Remember, we're not born without nutrition. You don't live. Everything, your whole body is made up of something that you ate from the environment that came in, or your mom ate it while you were in the womb and you were formed. And it all is the nutrition. And you're not formed very well when you don't get the right amount of nutrition. And it doesn't last the structure doesn't last long if you don't get the right amount all the way through life. And these are all the holes. And we're going to look at this graph many times today. So just stay with me. This is the root cause to everything is your nutrition, obviously. Because no one argues this. Unquestionably, those numbers are linked to the adherence to nutrition activity. So starting with nutrition, because activity is caused by nutrition. Bad nutrition, bad activity, bad life. And that because nutrition builds our foundation in the first place and rebuilds it daily. Our trillions of cells are constantly replacing. It takes nutrition to do it. That's why you have to have a certain amount of it in each level. Poor nutrition, which is your nutrient gaps, equals poor activity and poor body composition, a vicious cycle that ends up with those numbers and a lifetime of medication. You got to solve that. We got to wipe those gaps out. There's 20 under-consumed nutrients we all know about. We'll get to that number again. Fill the gaps in the beginning so we can be here. We have that potential. We already know that. Yeah. Modern humans have the potential to play and live longer, starting by feeding that silent hunger that you can't feel. You know when you're hungry for calories, but you don't know when you're hungry for your vitamins and minerals. Your body's not telling you that. So that's what this is really all about. And that's what we're going to look at. So here are the 3 cornerstones built out. So you can take notes now. This is time to start taking notes. You got to meet your nutrient recommendations. You want to call it a healthy diet. I mean, the diets that are out there today are nonstop. They're just everywhere. I quit telling people what to eat. I know what healthy diet is, and you know what a healthy diet is. But everybody's looking for that magic one. There's like 50,000 listed out there. Okay, so healthy diet, what's that? We know what we need in the diet. So that's what we have to get. So the diet, obviously, meet nutrient recommendations. Diet, we'll have it, whatever diet you're going to follow, and we'll look at that in a little bit, okay, is, again, we got to fill the gaps. With caloric efficiency at the end of the day, so you've got, so that 2 and 3 can happen. Without number 1, 2 and 3 cannot happen. There is no life without nutrition. Nutrition made us, as I mentioned, it becomes the root cause for everything good or bad. Write that down. Everything good or bad that happens in our bodies, within our bodies, the root cause is nutrition. The second is, of course, staying active. Now, the good news is why I chose the gym, the health clubs as our distribution channel is because you're in there now. So you've already made the decision to be active. So I got number 2 taken care of when you walk into our clubs. But activity tells nutrition where to go. If you look at the centenarians in the world, people from the Mediterranean area, the people in part of France, and the people in Spain, and then, of course, Okinawa, these are the people who live the longest. The activity tells the nutrition where to go. Because without activity, the nutrition just kind of floats around. Nothing happens. Muscles shrink, bones shrink, and there's no reason for nutrition to go there because you're not using it. But here's the minimum. Now, hopefully again, you guys decide what you're doing based on your goal. A minimum that people have to be able to look at the numbers we just looked at right here, to be able to look at those numbers, the minimum you need here on number 2 is 2 to 3 days a week of strength training. That takes care of your muscle, your cardiovascular system, and brain health as well. Okay, because your brain's a muscle, you're just pumping blood through it on a regular basis there. Again, without 1, none of this works. So what are you pumping through it? You're pumping not enough nutrition. Well, of course, the brain's just going to give in after a while. Your eventual target, though, when it comes to just your daily activities, is 10,000 steps. And some should be brisk. Now, listen, I'd love you to do regular cardiovascular, go in there and do 20, 30 minutes a day. I know a lot of people can't do it or won't do it or whatever. So that's minimum. I'm showing you minimum. Okay, and that's why you go to the club for your strength training and whatever else. But make sure you work it up. Eventually get to 10,000 steps a day. That's easy. You can stand up on your phone, pace a little bit, and that takes care of the same things that exercise does. That's part of it. So that's 2, done. I'm just giving this real quick because we're going to get to the meat of this thing, which is your nutrition stuff. And then number 3 is your healthy body composition. And what do you want to look like? Well, that's just the sum of 1 and 2. 1 and 2. The activity and meeting your nutrient recommendations, and you adjust the amount of your nutrition based on your weekly measurements. And that's what we do in the gyms. That's what we always do. You can look in the mirror and do it. So I'll lay that out for you in just a second. So now, with that all said, let's go to what the meat of this is. So now you know the minimum of what you got to do and what we do all the way around. Those are 3 things. That's it. That's all you got to focus on. All right. So let's build a human starting right now with a play span that can last a lifespan. So write this down. It's important. Metabolism reset and continuity. We are going to reset your metabolism so you can maintain youth and activity. And it's the easiest part of the whole journey. That's the funny part about all this. We're going to meet your nutrient targets so that you want to in the first place and can stay active. So again, I'm allowing food on your terms. I've been doing this for 40 years around the world. You got Derek Barton on, who actually built the Gold's Gym brand when Gold's Gym started. He's the one that took it worldwide with all the celebrities and everything else. He knows that. I mean, bottom line, I've been telling people what to eat for. Bottom line is that's not going to happen. It's food on your terms, within your desired lifestyle. So what lifestyle do you live? What foods do you eat? What do you prefer? It's got to be enjoyable, but it's got to be sensible. Just can't be stupid. You're not going to live on hot dogs and French fries. The bottom line is, that's a little bit pushing it, and sodas. So bottom line on that one is food, you can still have food on your terms. We can offset a lot of the bad stuff and some of the things and just fill gaps. So what you need to do on that note, stop the internet searches right now and unfriendly, unqualified, and friendly, unqualified advice, including from the pseudo experts out there. These people that are nutrition these nutrition gurus, whatever you want to call them, nutrition influencers. And we have a whole podcast. I just take all these guys out. I've forgotten more than they'll ever know about it. But these are nutrition influencers. Not all of them. There's some experts out there that are actually very good about stuff. But nutrition influencers, they're selling nutrition. They're selling nutrition. These are people who know nothing about nutrition. They sell nutrition to people who know nothing about nutrition. So you got to delete those. You got to get rid of those things. Okay. So the bottom line, when it comes, those are what I call the pseudo experts. You got to unfollow the nutrition influencers. They're just going to confuse you with your noise. So that's got to get off the table. Dietary support, because we're going to talk about that, all you need, but in the right amounts. This is the easiest part of the whole equation, and certainly the most important part, because that's what's going to keep you moving. So let's get your food plan out of the way so you can eliminate all the hard stuff right here. All right, let's get this. So your food plan is your macronutrients, your protein, fats, and carbs, okay? Now, food supplies are macronutrients and our calories. Our calories are in there. Now, the food that you eat also has your micronutrients, but unfortunately, which has no calories, a good food plan may only, that's a good food plan, 60 to 80% of the micronutrients your body can actually use for short and long-term health. Keep that note. So let's just take a look at the macros for a minute, your protein, fats, and carbs, because you know when you're low on those, you're hungry and you got to eat, all right, every few hours. All right, so this is ideal, a simple planning formula. Your average calories are going to be based on your body composition. Listen, we do programs for that. That's easy. You can go to Google and get 8 million. They're all going to come out the same. Just tell them what your weight is, all this kind of, and your activity levels, and you'll get a number. So that's based on what do you want to, lose weight, gain weight. You're going to eat below your maintenance. If you're going to lose weight, you're going to eat above your maintenance if you're going to gain weight. But here's where we get down to the nitty gritty. Protein first, always. 1 gram per pound of lean body mass. And if you're lean, just use weight. Don't worry about it. You're never going to get too much protein. Don't worry about that. 1 gram per pound of lean body mass. And if you're a vegan, you're going to need more, because what you're doing is you're adding vegan protein, which is not as high when it comes to biological value as animal protein. But there, you can still get there. You just got to eat a little more of lean quality protein. So you don't count oatmeal as a protein. You don't count cereal as a protein. Even though it's got 6 grams listed, it's equal to about 2 or 3 grams of anything as far as essential amino acid count. That's what you're looking for. Okay. So now and then you want to split that into daily meals, including first thing in the morning. You want to break the fast with protein. I don't care about carbs. I know most people do it with carbs. You got to break it with protein. You've been in a fasting state since your last meal. What was that? 8 o'clock at night? 4 hours. Your body is catabolic. 4 hours after a meal, you're in a post-absorptive state. That means the human body is now catabolic, because that's how it takes care of itself. It dumps the stuff to keep all your tissues alive when you're not eating regularly, because we're periodic eaters. So this incredible system where our body just dumps stuff out. Well, when you get up in the morning, you've been in a fasting state now for 12 hours or whatever it was, or however many hours since your last meal. Let's just say it was 10, 12, whatever it may be. Well, you got to break the fast with protein. Otherwise, you keep dumping it out of your muscles and so forth. So that's the very first thing you want to do. So that's your protein requirement. Carbohydrates, mostly fruits, vegetables. Again, this is the ideal. Mostly fruits, vegetables with some whole grains. Shoot for about 25 to 35 grams of fiber. No one gets that in America, but shoot for it. Get there eventually. You got to work up to it, because you don't want to be in a room with someone that's been only getting 6 grams of fibers daily, and now they're eating 35. You don't want to be in that room. It's going to be a bad, bad day. So it's always difficult to introduce fiber. The human body just doesn't like it, because it has to do too much work. So it's a kind of a leftover evolutionary thing of our brains. We don't like green stuff because it's too much work to get energy. There's hardly any energy in it. So that's why we don't. But you got to get there. You got to get there, especially in the world we live in today. So that's it. Eventually, if you can. And fats will just come from your seafood, or if you eat seafood, most Americans don't, unfortunately, or whatever your proteins, they'll have it. But then, of course, you want nuts, olive oils. These are the more healthy fats. So there's the perfect diet. Now, how do you adjust that? Okay, now what we do, we measure body fat. We just move you in the right direction, up or lower. We add. You're basically you're going to have, based on your goal, tied to a weekly body fat measurement. You don't lower your protein intake ever. In fact, as you're going lower and lower and lower, it may end up going up to protect the lean body mass loss during aggressive weight loss. Okay, so you'll adjust the diet and or activity. So either diet or activity or both, usually a combination. So body fat weight is on average directionally correct. If you blow it one day, you can make it up. I'll talk about that just a little bit later. That's not a problem, but you can't blow it and just think, oh, God, it was great for 28 days. I'm going to blow it one day. And God, I gained all the weight. How'd that happen? Well, that's all it takes. It doesn't take much more than that. So when you blow it, it's easy to make it up over 3 days when you get there, just to stay directionally correct. It's about on average, because you never know, your weight could vacillate 1 pound this way, but it's the average over time. There you go. So that's ideal. Pretty easy ideal, right? So summary, hit the protein requirement, including breaking the overnight fast with a protein meal as soon as you wake up, if you can, as soon as possible after waking. Remain near the calories are preferred good carbs and fats, whatever you can pretty much like on that. And then if you're not hitting those numbers, make a protein shake and throw whole fruit in it. Put your veggies in there. My kids grew up on that. They would have never eaten fruits and veggies if I didn't make protein shakes for them with the real fruit and real veggies in it. And they like it. So hit your numbers, use that. All right, not so ideal. And I do work with people like this once in a while. In the celebrity world that I have to work with, there are people, I'll give you an example. I'm not going to use names here because it's under NDAs with these people, but one of the most famous country western singers of all time. He just told me, I got to have a bottle of wine every night. Okay, I got to work that in. So somehow I got to work it in. I just know that, hey, you just work it in because you got to. Listen, I'm not promoting that for anybody. I'm just giving you an example, and I got to have this, and I got to have that. You can do it. Because at the end of the day, if you start losing the body fat, you start feeling better because you're filling all your gaps, the way we talked about, because these leave a lot of gaps in the not so ideal diet. When you're filling those, you just start feeling better and better, and one good turn deserves another. And people just start making, good stuff happens. So I just tell them this: meet the protein requirement. That's not optional. And that's easy for them right there.
Didn't we put your dirty clothes right there?
Then eat the best you can and figure it out. So you meet the protein requirement, eat the best you can. And then you can adjust based on your pants, belt, or scale, because you don't have access to something else, like measurements or whatever. But I mean, at some point, you got to know when you're gaining weight, right? It's very insidious, though. The average American only gains 1 or 2 pounds a year, 3 pounds a year. But when do you know your pant goes from a 31 waist to a 32, 33, 34, 36? I mean, does it take that long? Or when your belt's going on that, or I just at some point, and I know you're not going to weigh yourself when you're gaining weight because you're afraid to. So bottom line is, just always have some sort of way of keeping yourself, in check there. And that's the not so ideal way. And then just find any diet that helps you control calories to meet your body comp goal, and then you'll supplement as necessary. So there you go. We just took care of your whole diet. Now, here's the things I don't want you to even think about here, because I don't want you going to the internet and start looking for stuff on this and managing data for your own convenience because you want to hear something. You want something to be true. So let's just look. Here's some diet notes to keep you focused on what matters. Write it down. Think moderation. Because this stuff's all over the internet. I mean, that's how these kids make money on there. They come up with something controversial and everybody goes, oh, that's why I'm fat. I can't have that. I can't have seed oil anymore. I can't have that. Oh my God, I just didn't know that. Really? Okay. So that's how they make money, just getting people to follow them and stuff like this. So this is the obvious. Consume whole foods as much as, by the way, the definition of a whole food is just close to natural state. So if you don't, an orange, a whole orange, you can peel it. Okay. So a whole orange or some processed orange juice that's all sugar and with sweeteners, or an orange soda. What's better? I mean, so that's the difference between that, or just a lean meat versus some processed meat that you're buying, in a mart somewhere or something like that, or a TV dinner. So again, that's just as much as you can, right? Just eat whole foods as much as possible. Don't go over, just as much as possible. If you're rich, buy organic for the environmental reasons. I'm not arguing that, but not for your health. There's no difference between that and conventional foods. Limit your ultra-processed foods. Okay, but don't overanalyze it. I put some links. All these links are hot, so you can all get all the science behind this stuff, but don't overanalyze it. So ultra-processed foods, they're the new bad guy. That and seed oil, so the new bad guy. I just love this shit they do on the internet. It just cracks me up. I just rip the crap out of these people. typically energy dense, low fiber. These are the things, you know what they are, salty. They have that, they have a longer shelf life. They keep the texture soft, like, 3 months later, it's still soft and tastes great and all these things. And convenience food and cheaper, right? But the bottom line is, what came first? Is the chicken or the egg? Did people eat this to get fat, or are they eating it because they are fat? And those are the facts. Food goes hand in hand with the lifestyle of the person that consumes it. Greater consumption can cause overeating because processed foods really are salt, sugar, fat, all the things humans are addicted through evolution when those things weren't available. So that's the addiction. Every food scientist knows that. So they lace this stuff with that. Okay, so the bottom line is it can cause overeating because it just tastes so good. And if you don't really care about your weight, you just keep eating it. All right. And then what does that lead to? Not wanting to move. So again, it goes hand in hand with that. Don't overanalyze it. Don't, I look at the people in my orbit, I don't want to eat ultra processed food at all. Okay, don't. Okay, and they're trying, don't tell other people stuff like that. You're not qualified to say that kind of stuff. And that gets to this next part. Don't be afraid of intake of moderate intake. Remember, think moderation, artificial sweeteners, flavors, seed oils, or other internet conspiracies. There's more data on, there's nothing wrong there when you're doing it the way it was meant to be done. Again, unless that's all you eat, you're overweight and you're unhealthy and you have no plans of fixing that, well, go ahead, cut out the French fries they use seed oil to make. I mean, I think you got bigger problems, okay? So the whole thing's comical. I mean, it's just when you put it in perspective. In other words, whenever necessary, use low-calorie sauces, dressings, and drinks to keep the calories down and the flavor up so you stay with the amount of calories that are right. And no, natural isn't always better, okay? That's why we have allergen warnings. I mean, eggs are natural, milk's natural, shellfish, tree nuts kill people, peanuts. We have warnings on these things. So natural isn't always better, okay? Artificial stuff doesn't kill anybody. Those are just, again, and the dosage of it. I got a little slide here for you. These are just like, kind of crazy little things out there that you have. All right. Now, if you blow it, fix it. It's easy. So in other words, okay, if I go to a party, like I'm going to, we're going to play golf on Saturday at this this tournament there that Derek puts on every year. And with the Coney Island Whitefish, so forth, bunch of celebrity people back in the day. And so, we're going to pound groceries. I'll probably have 3,000 calories of alcohol, 3,000 calories of food. I'll fix it. I mean, today and both days, I'm going to be probably a few hundred calories less regularly, drink a whole lot less for sure in the next couple of days. And then I'll just move more the next day and the next day, and I'm right back on schedule to be able to be. I do everything. If I can't see my abs, if for any of my abs ever get blurry when I'm looking at it in the mirror, all I do is cut back a scotch or two, and I can get right back on track. So it's just easy that's how I control it all right there. So it's easy to fix it when you blow it, when you really know it. The little things I'm teaching you today. Don't add salt unless you must. There's enough salt in our food today. And, we got enough issues there all the way around. But if you can't eat eggs without it and you want eggs, go ahead and put it on there. Just don't load this stuff up. All right. All right. Now, here's the big one here. I hesitated about putting this in there. If you look at the Harvard's latest release, they talk about the 5 cornerstones, which are the same ones, 3. The other one is don't smoke. I mean, shit, if I got to tell someone that, avoid smoking to live a longer life, then I've already lost you, okay, if you didn't know that. So I don't even bother paying attention to that. And the other one is they tell you that moderate drinking actually prolongs life. Now, I've never bought into that. That is no reason to start drinking if you don't drink. But what this new study just came out. So in other words, you consume alcohol if you want to. Coffee and tea for sure. I mean, there's no question. We know that people that drink 4 to 6 cups a day live longer than people that don't drink coffee. They live longer people that drink 3 cups a day. I'm not telling you there's not a reason to start it. There's things associated with people like myself. I'll have 4 cups a day. That's usually anywhere from 3 to 4. And there's things associated with those people that probably have other habits. So let's just don't go there. But not only is it fine, people, less chance of dementia, less chance of diabetes in coffee drinkers. And there is things in coffee, including caffeinated coffee, which is a little bit better than as far as health benefits than just decaffeinated coffee. So again, just all good there. We got that. But on the alcohol side, there's no reason to start it because a lot of bad things can happen to people that drink and then drink more and more and more. But they printed this. This just came out. You're the first people to see this, right? Unless you saw it in the news somewhere else. They didn't actually put it in the news. And I can see why, but I mean, it's one of the, I get studies before they're printed, before they're published. Okay, so this guy, because he got really pissed off about the fact that Harvard, all these other institutions saying moderate drinking actually shows that people can it can increase lifespan slightly, at least for the group of people, a certain group of people. Anyway, again, nothing to I'm not buy into, no reason to start doing that. But so this guy got really pissed off, and this is Canadian researchers with some other people in Europe and everything else put together this study, and they looked at drinking, period. And they said no amount of drink will help you live longer. But at the worst, ready for this now? I go like this. I can't believe they printed this because this could get you to start drinking. 2 drinks a week, okay, may shorten your life by 3 to 6 days. Wow, okay. Now, 35 drinks a week. This is the one here. Now, that's more than I drink. I drink too much. But the good news is I never drank until I was 4. I retired as an athlete. I made a living with my body all the way up to 40. And, I retired. And I never drank back then because I didn't, even though I grew up in motorcycle gangs, you'd think I would, right? But sports kept me out of it and saved my life. And, that all worked. And, of course, bodybuilding as well. So I never really drank. So I didn't start until I was like in my 40s. That means I could drink as much as I want. And alcohol won't kill me. That's the good news there. But bottom line is 35 drinks a week. Now, this is right there. You can click on this study right here. May shorten your life by 2 years. Really? Did you really print that? So I'm sitting here going, so I'm reading that, and I know that I have the potential because I do everything else right? I mean, I exercise, I do all the cornerstones of life, I fill all my gaps, I eat well, and I party, but I eat well. I go, so you're telling me that if I don't drink at all and I live to be 100, because I do all the other stuff that we just talked about, or whatever, I'd live to be 100. That if I drink 35 a week, it's only going to shorten my life by 2 years. So I'll die at 98, but I get to party my whole life. Shit, I'm in. I mean, that to me was like I can't even believe they printed that. Anyway, but that was the whole thing there. So again, it's just not. And again, obviously you can offset any minor out by when you're filling your gaps and doing all the right things. That's why I put the but in there. I mean, this is just ridiculous, all the way around. So don't be afraid to consume moderate amounts of alcohol like anything else. Now, and again, you guys don't live in California, but I just have to throw this in there because this is hilarious. Ignore Proposition 65 unless you never want to eat again. It is the epitome of fear mongering. And it's just, almost every food contains higher amounts of lead than are allowed in our beautiful, and I love my state. I love here. I love living here. I live here. I got the ocean here. I got the mountains here, and I live in a ranch. It just doesn't get any better. But this is just a joke all the way around. Just one serving of natural spinach you buy in a store has 10 times more than that number. So what are you going to never eat again? So you got to, again, no one pays attention to it. It's 10 to 50 times lower than global stuff there. They don't tell you how much is in food. We're just telling you compared to anything else. You can ignore that one all the way around. I put some links in there as well. So there you go. Those are the things. So here's your final takeaway on this. Diet notes to keep you focused. Again, moderation. The principle of moderation. Every food, every approved additive, every nutrient that you can't live without, whether it's vitamin C, whether it's vitamin D, whether it's zinc, whether it's selenium, whether it's chromium, you can't live without those. Those are essential nutrients. Your life doesn't even start without them. So everything like that and everything like a food, like artificial sweetener, follows what we call the bell curve, where a certain amount does not stress the metabolism. It's the happy zone that actually gets you the result. Use an artificial sweetener. So it's just a couple of micrograms or milligrams of an artificial sweetener, takes the calories down, wipes out 50 calories of something, or 100 calories in the case of a Diet Coke. And yet that tiny amount will have no effect, but it allows you to have that without the calories, which when sweeteners and sugar causes all kinds of problems. So it's replacing something, so it's better. And then now, if you're going to drink 600 Diet Cokes a day, now you're on the other side. You're creating stress on the metabolism. You can't live without zinc. the right amount of zinc, 20 milligrams a day, then, okay, you're in the happy safety zone and all that kind of stuff. But if you get too much, you overload and you got all kinds of nerve problems. So again, it's the same thing for everything. That's the principle. Every scientist knows this. This is what it's all about. Every ingredient follows the bell curve, where there's little problem and effect. A certain amount balances the good. So if it's good, too much creates stress on your metabolism. Too much milk, too much of all the things that we eat that are really great. Too much can stress it. So it's all that. So happy zone of safety and tolerance. So that ends that. Your dosing can turn anything toxic, how much you take something. So I just put that final note in there. Okay. Well, guess what? We just finished everything you need to know about eating your macronutrients and putting them in perspective for you. Now, all you got to do now is watch your calories, watch your weight. And again, that's the easy part. That is the easy part. And you can make up the difference, and that's for body composition. But I just gave you can make any diet good, and that's what we're going to look at right now. Dietary support, picking up where food leaves off. Because we know the food's best it's going to do is 60 to 80% of things that we need for our metabolism to be fired up. Okay, so you ready? All right, picking up where food leaves off to fortify your metabolism. For those of you that don't know the definition of metabolism, and I'm not saying you should, by the way, it is everything that happens in your body. That's what you are, everything. So I put the definition down here from Webster, the whole sum of reactions that occur throughout the body within each cell. By the way, you have trillions and trillions of cells, providing its energy and tissue growth and repair. Vitamins and minerals and other micronutrients such as lutein, lycopene, zeaxanthin, all your phytochemicals you find in vegetables and so forth. Those are other micronutrients. They're responsible for every one of these metabolic processes. And your performance is the sum of your cell's performance. And these are the things that make the cells work. So what we're going to be doing is filling gaps caused by your diet, because trust me, it's leaving a ton of them. The environment, the environmental insults we have from pollution, all the things that we live in an industrial nation that causes all types of disease and all kinds of issues. We are going to fill gaps to offset the environment and offset the diet, whether it's good or bad, aging as we get older. Because remember, humans were not programmed to live past 30. 4 million years of hominids, all the way up for 3.9 million years, we lived to the average person would live maybe after reproduction. And that's why women still mince at age 12, because no one lived past 20, right? We didn't do our late 20s until we became Homo sapiens, in that group. So we were never designed to do that. So we have to offset the aging problem that we have as well. If we all died at 30, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. There's no reason. Okay. And of course, our lifestyles, because we are bombarded with stuff all around us nonstop. You have to offset a lot of those things to be able to improve and strengthen our cellular health. It's about your cellular health. You are a product of your cells. So I'm going to go through the why and how. I'm going to go through this quickly so we can get to the meat of what you got to do. The why and how, so that your play span equals your lifespan. We know what you got to do on macros, and pretty much I left that to you. And because you can offset certain lifestyle factors. If you're not eating perfect, we can offset a lot of that. If you're not doing this, whatever you're doing, we can offset a lot of those things by filling the gaps properly, keep all your enzymes up there working. All right, so what we're solving for, filling all nutrition gaps within calories. I can't just tell you to eat, okay, let's say it takes 2,500 calories to keep your body composition exactly the way it is. I can't tell you to eat 4,500 or 6,000 calories to get all the vitamin and minerals you need. And you wouldn't even know if they were in the foods anyway, depending on where they were grown and shipped and the rest. But the bottom line is we can't do that. So within the calories that allows your desired body composition. So you can live, look, think, move, and play better longer. In other words, a play span equal to a lifespan. Okay, and we're going to talk about meeting nutrient recommendations so that 2 and 3 that we just talked about can happen. So keep this is another thing you need to just put in your mind. Nutrition establishes the basis for all things because, again, we're not born without it. And by the way, if all our essential nutrients means it's something that life cannot start or live without, if you're missing one, life doesn't start. If you don't get enough of them, right, it's just your life is just not that good because you're not nearly as good. So everything good and bad in the body, that's the beginning. That's the root to all of it. Poor nutrition is the root cause to poor aging. And guess when aging starts? In the womb. And on that note, I'll talk about that, the prenatal multivitamin mineral, which is the beginning of it all. All right, here's the why on filling gaps. We know your macros. We already talked about your source of calories, but the micronutrients in those are the actuators of all your human metabolism. and they are required for virtually every metabolic and developmental process, meaning responsible for our cellular health, our trillions of cells there in our infrastructure. And at best, our foods might reach 60 to 80%, as we talked about, of our micronutrient needs. And by the way, the micronutrient needs to stay alive are very minor. And if you don't care, you start aging, by the time you're 30, you got all kinds of problems, you fracture in your teens, you don't care, that's no big deal. But if you want long-term health, then the micronutrients have to be at what we know we need to be able to support long-term, not just short-term, keep you alive. All right, so the nutrient gap between what we really need to support short and long-term health, that's the gap, right? That's what we call our silent hunger. Because guess what? They don't contain any calories. So you can't hear it like this. Hey, Neal, you're low on calcium today. So guess where I'm going to have to get it in order to keep your heart beating? I'm going to have to get it from your bones. Dang it. Hey, you're low on vitamin K. Guess what? I don't have enough now to be able to protect your cardiovascular system. I can eat it for blood clotting because that's more important. That's the silent hunger you can't hear. Because there's no calories in it. You know when you're low on calories. You're hungry all the time. There's about 40 of these things, by the way, that are essential. So the goal is to fill these gaps to the current known protective levels that will activate all of our metabolism, not just the part that keeps us alive, delivering daily performance on long-term protection. So our trillions of cells, so in summary, our trillions of cells need their full dose of their food, which is the micronutrients, to rebuild, to be able to feed the enzymes in our cells. We got over 1,000 enzymes in each one of our trillions of cells. And those are the machines inside of our cells that make everything happen. And the machines don't have the tools, which are the vitamins and minerals. They just lay there dormant, and your cells are dormant. And that's just the way the whole thing works. So bottom line is our daily nutrient recommendations that no one achieves from food alone within acceptable calories. That's what we need to do. Otherwise, here it is. So here's your little science lesson. These next two slides here, your little science lesson, and we'll get to the punchline here. This is the consequences of ignoring your silent hunger, is early aging and frequent breakdown. Whenever by the way, those are the hallmarks of aging. That was a very famous study that came out by Otten back in the day, a few years ago, about these are the key signs of aging. And every one of these signs is underpinned, and that's right from the study here. Low micronutrient intake equals accelerated aging through evolutionary triage. All right. In other words, suboptimal nutrition accelerates the aging by dysregulating the key metabolic and cellular process that you're looking at in that circle right there. Well, obviously, because that's what creates life in the first place. So here's what's happening, folks, why we have to fill our gaps. Because you're not getting, if you're eating a really good diet, you're getting 60 to 80% of what your body can actually use for short and long-term health. So what's it going to do then? That means the available micronutrients that you're taking in through your diet, they'll be used for your daily survival functions. That deprives them of their ability to support long-term functions. So they call it a triage. In other words, something's going to have to be triaged. And I gave you an example of calcium, but I can give you a million of them. But vitamins and minerals, they don't just work in one spot. Vitamins and minerals work in hundreds of different spots. The same one works in different areas, okay? But there's some things that have to happen every minute in the body. Okay, obviously you got to produce ATP or you can't move. Okay, you've got your heart's got to beat, right? So you need calcium, magnesium, you need all these different things there. Blood has to form constantly. All the cells are constantly being rebuilt. So all of these are what we call survival things. So when you're not getting enough magnesium or calcium or vitamin K or any of these things, they're going to take care of those things, leaving the micronutrients, other roles out there for longevity related to your bones, your brain, and your muscle. It doesn't care how if you get dementia, it just cares right now that your body needs these things to have your heart pump and do all that muscle activity to move you to hunt or any of these things. So, example, I use calcium. You need 1,200 milligrams of calcium a day as an adult. And that's what it takes. So that's what your body uses daily in order to keep your heart pumping, your muscles contracting, and all those things in the body. Now, what happens if you don't get 1,200 a day, which 75% of the population doesn't? Do you think it's going to let you die? No, of course. So we have a very sophisticated system, the parathyroid and everything. It goes, ooh, well, you got 500 a day. Well, that's not going to work. So we have these hormones that control it. So 1% of calcium is in your blood, 99% is in your bone. And if you didn't get enough calcium growing up, you don't have very much in your bone, but it's still 99% of a very low number. So now what it's doing it's pulling out of the bone because it's going to keep you alive. And the bone gets weaker, weaker, weaker. And of course, you end up with fractures. And this happens to kids when they're young, not getting enough calcium, vitamin D, and magnesium. Their bones are weak, they fracture, and they end up never playing ball, all kinds of stuff there. And then later on, osteoporosis and osteopenia. And that's just one example. Vitamin K, same thing. It can't protect your cardiovascular system from calcium buildup if you don't have enough to take care of blood clotting. So it's always triage. Something's going to be triaged, and it's long term. It's at the end of the day. So here's your little note. Ready? This is your silent hunger note to your body. You can't hear this, but this is what it's trying to tell you. Hey, Neal, your bones, your brain, and your cardiovascular and some other systems, they're just not going to make the full trip. Sorry about that. Because your shortage of vitamin minerals and the other micronutrients only allows me to keep you breathing. And that's just for now. So feed me the micronutrients before something breaks. That way I got enough for the long-term health as well. So that's what we're talking about. There's your little science lesson. So the bottom line is we can solve that root cause. Those are the holes. Those are the 20 known underconsumed major micronutrients. There's some other ones. I put the other ones. These links are all live. Go to the top there. Tell you the fruits and vegetables that have their phytochemicals like lycopene, lutein, and zeaxanthin, things that we don't get unless you eat tons of fruits and vegetables, 5 to 9 servings a day. Your omega-3s. These are all there. You can do all. This has all the latest through 2025, by the way, stats on what we're not getting. If you're not filling your gaps, that's what food delivers on a good day. And everybody's in 5 to all of these categories here on all of this. And there's your omega-3. So the whole idea is to fill gaps from the beginning so we can get there, get that done. And that's what drives you to keep wanting to be active. We get 2 out of 3 right off the bat in the gym. You're already active because you're there. And we're going to keep that by feeding you. That's we get 1 and 2. 3 will come now. And that's what it's about. Now, here's the other thing here. This is the why. It's only getting worse. I want you to know that. It's not getting better. It's getting worse. Okay, so you take this, superimpose it on top of these new diets. This is paleo, keto, they got the carnivore diet. You guys, if you're watching Sup Beast, you see me just rip the crap out of some of these. Some of these are fine. Nothing wrong with the vegan diet. It's great. I applaud vegans. I certainly couldn't do it myself. But the bottom line is you have to supplement the hell out of it to get all the stuff that you need. Okay, because that's just not a natural state for people to eat. Intermittent fasting, I like too. It's good for weight loss. It's not, we can't have athletes do it. Obviously, they have to eat every 4 or 5 hours to keep the protein going and not be catabolic. But intermittent fasting, you're definitely going to lose muscle over time, but it's a great way to lose body fat. That window keeps your calories down and so forth. But look at what you're missing with these diets: gluten-free, keto, paleo. That's the nutrients we just looked at back on this slide that you are short on more than ever. Okay. And don't tell me food's going to fix it. So this is the latest. You might be the first group to see this. This is a brand new study just came out, 2025, of essential nutrients dangerously underconsumed now in the U.S. It used to be only 8 dangerously. We have 20 known underconsumed. 8 were dangerously. Now we're at 10 because of these diets that you're looking at. We're not going to solve it with food. And when someone tells you this, I want you to write this down. I want you to look at this person and say, never mind. When someone tells you you get all the nutrients you need as long as you eat right. Really? Okay, well, thanks. Well, there's a false promise right there. First of all, no one ever eats right. Those are the numbers right there. No one's ever done it. Okay, nobody knows what eating right is. And second of all, how are you going to do that with an acceptable number of calories? It's impossible. We know those are all hot links and everything else, and it's just getting worse because of these diets that are out there. Okay, but there's a simple solution for all diets, and that's what we're here to talk about today. I'll go through that quickly. So this is the punchline to filling up your nutrient gaps so that you can live that way. Feeding your infrastructure so your play span can equal. This is the why, again, staying with the why. Essential nutrition in proper amounts brings your dormant enzymes, because remember, the enzymes in your trillions of cells, your over thousands of enzymes in each cell, they're just laying there. They don't have the spark plugs, which are your vitamins and minerals. So you have low performance. Your sum. At the end of the day, our daily performance is sum of our cells' performance. So here. So again, a typical diet, we said, 60 to 80% is going to get your vitamins and minerals. Well, you're just underperforming and unprotected. We can still go to work. We can still go to school. We can still even go to practice, or whatever we're doing. But we're just not as good as we can be. And that's just that's just a simple math equation. We're just not. It leaves us, we may be moody, we may just not have the right thought process anymore, as good as we could be. We're certainly not performing as well as we could be. But the typical diet leaves us this way because of your cells are dormant. So think of your enzymes. Now, again, you got trillions of cells. In each cell, there's over 1,000 enzymes, could be 2,000 enzymes. Those enzymes are the machines in the cells that make the cell work. The cell's there, but the enzymes drive them to reproduce properly, to move. So you have cells of muscles, you've got cells of your bone, you've got cells in your brain. They're powered by the enzymes in them. And what powers the enzymes? Your vitamins and minerals. Those are the spark plugs in the enzymes. So you have inactive enzymes if you don't have enough. So think of this. Enzymes are like factory machines. They're always there, but they need specific tools. In this case, spark plugs like vitamins and minerals to do their jobs. Without the tools, the machines just sit there idle. And then, by the way, they don't vanish immediately. Now, they will after a while. If you don't take care of that, they will just go, and now you've got no enzymes left there. They will come back if you feed them the machine, if you feed them the tools, they'll come back eventually, but it takes a long time to bring them back. So they don't wipe away immediately. So, but the factory production slows down because they're just dormant. They're in. But then, right, when you give them the tools again, you add the vitamin, it now activates the enzyme, and now you've got factory production in that cell now is back up. Production just ramps up, but it takes time. That's why I tell people it takes 6 months. There's nothing sexy about filling your gaps. You don't go like this. Hey, you want you to take this supplement before you work out. Take a multivitamin, right? Wow, what a great workout. There's nothing sexy about it. This is the foundation of everything else on top of it. Where you take creatine, caffeine, yeah, you're going to get a workout there, but it's an empty fire because you want all your enzymes, so all this stuff works that much better all the way around. You want everything working, and then you're a different person. It takes a while. I always tell people, you got to, if you really want to know the difference, journal it. Now, for people that have been doing what we, again, I've got millions of people that do what we tell them to do on all that. I go, the only way you're ever going to know once you've been down the road like this couple here, the only way you're going to know is if you went off your vitamin and mineral. Yeah, if you stop taking it, and then all of a sudden you journal, you're going, wow, this is how I used to feel after about 3 or 4 months. But you know that. Because it's a slow process to fire up all your trillions of cells at full power again. That's what we call a metabolism reset. All right, so how do we do that? All right, we're going to solve the problem, the root causes of accelerated aging. We just went through the whole thing for you there. Unhealthy aging, that's what it is, and a subsequent big pharma age. That's what it is. I call it big pharma aging is what we got here. You saw the stats. There's just no excuse for that. And don't forget, aging starts in the womb. Now, what I want to remind you of this, to really solidify this in your mind for a minute, in the 70s, the American Medical Association, American Dietetic Association, Pediatric Association, they made it mandatory that every OBGYN or all your docs had to prescribe a multivitamin mineral to the conceiving mother. A multivitamin mineral. It's called a prenatal. I know we don't have ladies on this, but you know what I'm talking about. Now we include an omega-3 with it, but this is back in the day. Back then, you know what that single act did? It wiped out over 35% of major birth defects and 50% of stillborns. Why would you ever stop filling gaps? It doesn't get any better when you come out of the womb and you start eating the food around us. So I'm really just trying to figure that one out. But how did that ever stop? We're trying to stop adult defects, keeping your gaps full. It's that simple. So the solution is creating and protecting a healthy youthful structure. In other words, healthy aging on your terms. On your terms. We're not telling you these crazy green, all this great stuff you're going to have to eat because you're not going to do it. But we want you to be able to defend yourself against the aging storm with the minimum, and I'll show you the optimal protocols. You can do it based on budget, whatever it may be, necessary to build a resilient infrastructure and organism. All right. So here we go. This is the goal. Feed our infrastructure so our play span can equal a lifespan. So if you're the only one I don't like here, the picture on the left, I don't know, because I played adult league basketball. After I retired from bodybuilding, I went and played, because I played basketball back in the day too. I went back and played, but I don't care what I did. I mean, I still popping joints and stuff. And so I couldn't play after about 65. But I'm telling you, so that's the one or tougher one there. But all the rest of the stuff, all your sports, you can do them all the way to, in other words, the play span, here's the way it should be. If you live to be 100 and you're playing golf and you're a golfer, you should be able to play golf when you're 100. Your favorite course, let's say it's Pebble Beach, you're on the 18th green, you sink the putt and you drop dead right there. Frickin' perfect life. And that is be done. You're a cyclist. Maybe in your 20s and 30s, you used to cycle, used to race bicycles. Okay. Well, now you're 100, you're 98. And you can still get on that bike by your own. You're independent. Now, you can't ride it like you could when you were 80 or 60 or 40 or 20, obviously, but you can still do it. You ride around the block that day. You put the bike back in the garage and you drop dead right there next to your car. What a freaking perfect life. A play span equal life. And that's all possible. And the same with everything else that we're looking at here. That's what the goal is, right? So how do we do that? We got to solve this. If you don't solve this, you're screwed. And you can just take all the shit you want, take all the hormone therapy and everything else. You don't solve this, nothing's going to work right. And you're going to have to pay it back at some point. So let's just solve our metabolism reset. Let's get our infrastructure strong. And that's how simple it is. Your baseline micronutrient solution to a strong, lasting structure. You fill your gaps with the 20 known. I'm not talking about a Costco multi. I'm not talking about any of that kind of stuff. I'm talking about something that is built that matches those numbers, that matches any diet and that. And then, of course, if you're not eating 4 servings of fatty fish a week, which I can't get any American to do, then you got to make omega-3. It can be that simple. Now, 75% of Americans are low on calcium. This is a real serious problem. So you can't put that in a multi, because if you put it in a multi, if you need a calcium, tablet would be too big. So you have to be separate like this. And again, to complement that. So if you're one of those 75%, which most people are, if you're not taking dairy products anymore, then you'll need that to add to it. And then the only reason I put vitamin here, some people can't, even though your multi has plenty of vitamin D in it, and of course your calcium supplement would have vitamin D too. But sometimes people, like our athletes, need more. We got to get them over a certain number so they have all the benefits of the new recommendation we like for vitamin 3. So you might have to add that. But listen, I don't know anybody that can hit their macro number, 1 gram per pound of lean body mass a day of protein without some kind of help. I mean, you need a part-time job to be able to buy the groceries in the first place, because remember, we're talking about quality protein. And 2, you need a full-time cook to make your meals. So again, I don't know how you can do it. This is save you money. It's easy, and calorically, it's more protein, less calories. One of your meals or before and after a workout, get 25, 50 grams out of the way. You save yourself a shitload of money, and you'll hit your number. Not to mention, it's a better source of protein too. Just have that as one of your sources. That's the only reason I put it there. And then you can use powder. We give people powders that don't like pills. You can do that too. But here's the bottom line right here, you guys, right here. This is how you do it. This is the minimum, but this is enough. I'll show you the next in a minute, but I'm just saying this is enough. You got your complete multi. It's got to be the right one. You can't just, and again, you guys have all your practitioners that will take care of that for you. Calcium is needed, your omegas. And again, the omega, just so you know, if you're eating, I do often eat anywhere from 4 to 8 servings of fish weekly. I just stuck left to me. I actually like it. So often I don't need one. But fatty fish 4 times a week, are you going to have to add the supplement? Because without this, think of it, it's just the same thing. It works in every cell. Every one of your trillions of cells has omega-3s in the membrane. That's how they communicate. Without a solid membrane, the cell ages much, much quicker. So that's why this is part of a prenatal as well. So this is definitely something that you have to include in there. You can look at your plate. If you got fish on it every day, you're probably good to go. But it's got to be fatty fish. That's like mackerel, sardines, shit people don't like to eat. So otherwise, you're not going to get the right amount of omega-3. So I just pretty much say, just throw it in there. And then your protein there. But that's simple, right? And this is nutrition complete. And you can build on as desired, which I'll show you in just a second here. So bottom line is what we did here. We did this. We closed the gap right here. The result of that simple solution is so our play span can equal our lifespan, calorically efficiently meeting 100% of our nutrient needs. And that's going to drive the activity. That's what's going to drive it. I got 1 and 2 covered the day you walk into the gym, because you're going to be there 2 or 3 days a week at the minimum, whatever else there. I'm going to tell you, outside, make sure your daily activities, whatever you're doing as far as walking, and then that's going to create 3. Your body composition is going to fall right into place. My job is to get you addicted to fitness, and that's not going to happen without the nutrition component. I need you locked into the gym forever. And the earlier you start these numbers, the real effect this is. So look at this here. If you only follow my direction to 60%, moving up from the 40%, like the average American, it adds 20 years to your play span. Isn't that amazing? Now, let's say you live to be a 90, I don't know how long you're going to live. So I'm just putting that number. These are all real numbers. You live to be 90, your health span now has gone 20 years up if you follow 70% of our recommendation. And again, you're going to be following 1 and 2 pretty much 100% right from the beginning. 75%, you live that long. And these are all real numbers driven by algorithms. You end up with a life played very, very well here. because the humans have that ability to live that long as we're feeding our silent hunger. Otherwise, good luck. Now, beyond the minimum, I know because people always look at this, it's all over the internet. And of course, even my podcast that my fighter son put together and everything else has just gone crazy. It's like the fastest growing one out there. We talk about the different things here that can enhance your performance in each decade. This will get you there. Okay, there's some things we talked about. This can enhance the quality of life in your playspan every decade and help avoid big pharma. There are things like other phytochemicals that more antioxidant protection. We got probiotics, joint skin collagen for your skin and your joints and so forth. Feed your brain. Of course, you guys all know about creatine. So I'll give you just the basics on that in just a second. And then there's some other things that we can do. This is the extended health cabinet. This is truly the fountain of youth, being able to prolong some of these things. And then at the very end here, that's why you got to hang out, everybody. We're going to talk about hormone therapy and bioactive peptide therapy. Now, so let me put this in order of importance based on age and budget. So this is what we just talked about. This is your entry into that world. This is the minimum. You got your multi, you got a fast-acting protein or whatever. As long as you're getting that, I'm fine. Your omega-3 and calcium is needed. That's what we just talked about right there. Okay, and your omega, we talked about what it's for. I put some little things in here so you guys will know what it is. Calcium, if you're not getting 1,200. If you're not getting dairy, like a 1 cup of milk's got 300. Cheese has got 1.5 ounces of cheese, 300. If you're not getting that, now the good news is your whey protein is going to have a bunch of it, so you got there. But if not, you're going to have to add that no matter what. Then you've got your first add. Okay, so we got that. That's the basics right there done. The first add would be your lycopene, lutein, zeaxanthin. These are all molecules that are involved in all types of other antioxidant areas because oxidation, inflammation are the causes, major causes of aging or result of aging. What's happening? These keep these things in check. So this contains like alpha lipoic acid, CoQ10, lutein, zeaxanthin. Those are things that make up our eyes. They're actually eye supplements. They're made up of those things, all in one that I have people using. And to get their in all those levels to their youthful levels. As soon as we start aging, all this stuff goes down. Like I said, it's bad news after puberty. It's pretty much downhill after that, because that's what we were designed to reproduce, bottom line, and do the best you can after that. So the bottom line, we're trying to keep those youthful numbers of these important micronutrients in the body. And there's no calories in these things. It's just all in one. That's the next ad. And your fitness professional can tell you all this. Then your probiotic. Now, why wouldn't I start with a probiotic? Everything's about the microbiome. Hey, microbiome is everything. And we know that everybody living in an industrialized nation like we do has got a pretty nasty microbiome, not just from the foods they generally consume, but also the environment and pollution. So diet, natural aging, these and including intense exercise and other stressors upset that natural harmony there. And that's what communicates to the rest of our body. So this adds more probiotics, but without your vitamins and minerals there, this doesn't really do much. That's the thing. This stuff works because you've got the baseline stuff done. That's why I'm building it this way. Now, you might go to a doctor. They're going to put you on a probiotic for some other reason. That's another situation. But it's not going to work nearly as well if you don't have the baseline stuff under that right there. And that's what everything's about the microbiome today. And this just helps balance that out. So good bacteria takes over for the bad, helps with a leaky gut syndrome and all those other things that normally happen. And then here, and this is something you can start taking, as our joints age, by the time we get into our 30s, this is a thing for your skin and your joints because you just don't make enough collagen anymore to keep those things tight. So it goes the other way. All right, so these are things that we add because this keeps the actual building blocks for your skin, including wrinkles and so forth, building blocks that are flowing daily, and also helps trigger more natural collagen production. But it's down on the list, as you can see. Now, our athletes, when they get an injury, they live on this immediately. They're immediately put on this to be able to speed up the recovery process. So there's no reason you can't. I'm just building it this way for you. And then with no financial limitations when it comes to this, start feeding your brain nutrition, which is not available anymore really in your foods and your digestive tract really can't break it down. When you start to get to 45, everything changes as far as how much you can extract from your food. So phosphatidylserine B12, which is in your multi too, but there's some extra here, alpha lipoic acid, and acetyl L-carnitine. These are nutrients that our neurons need to completely function properly. The membranes function, all of those things. And we just don't get it from diet anymore. By the time age 45, you don't even start this till about age 45. And then you would use this. Now, again, this isn't fixing anything. Memory supplements are all bullshit. They're nothing. This is a preventative. Everything we're looking at is preventative. We're not trying to fix it. We're trying to keep things working, bring everything back to a youthful level. That's what it's all about. So this complements the multivitamin, your omega, and because omegas are really important, your whole brain development. That's why we give it in prenatal now. The third trimester is when the baby's brain really develops. So again, there's a decline in brain nutrition that reaches the brain, and this satisfies all that. So about age 45, we put that in. And then you got your vitamin D to add on top of it. That's based on budget and all that. And of course, if you're using the powder, then that kind of eliminates a lot of, that's like your super antioxidants in that, everything, a whole bunch of stuff's in there. So it's a different program. And this is all, they can work with you on all this stuff here. But let's go here. These are the extras that I know people always look at and they're buying, they go right to this stuff without doing this. Once you've done this, that's all, the minimum. Can't get any less expensive than that, not to mention the money it saves. Baseline dietary support is in place. You're free to include goal-specific support. And that's the next level of performance, if you will. So enhancing daily recovery to maximize performance in each decade. In other words, and no one dies at age 100 looking like Mr. or Miss Universe. No one dies at age 100, being the strongest man or strongest woman in the world. There's going to be a decline someplace in size, performance, and strength. We can push that out with some of these things. Remain active, independent, better, fighting off that age-related anabolic resistance. That's what we're talking about. We already know creatine. Almost every athlete across the board uses the fastest growing supplement on the planet today. And that's because of this side. Healthy aging, you're looking at using for menopause, females, it's a huge female supplement today. Brain energy, any place there's an energy, creatine can make a difference depending on how that is compromised. But we know it obviously is started in the world of sports, and it is definitely the most studied and most effective ergogenic performance aid. Now we just give it to people who don't even work out to help prolong bone strength and muscle strength, even if you don't work out. Of course, it works a billion times better with exercise. So again, you got that one. And then you've got this to help overcome anabolic resistance. All of our athletes, all of our aging athletes use this. All of our competitive athletes will use it along with their protein. It takes protein to the next level. It isolates the amino acids that can actually go absolutely straight to the muscle. It bypasses all the other areas. When you eat protein, all your 20 aminos are broken up. They go all over the body, and the liver decides where to send it. These actually bypass splanchnic extraction or the liver and goes right to the muscle and tells the ball, don't break down protein, just keep building it. It turns the machinery on. And this can offset the anabolic resistance that we grow up with. As we get older, obviously, you can't build the same amount of muscle as when you were younger if everything else is equal. You can still build it if you're just starting. But if you've been working out for the last 30 years and training hard, obviously at some point you're going to go this way, and this can offset that and push out that final plateau. So this is a very common recovery. All our NBA guys use it because it accelerates recovery tremendously, especially soreness and so forth. So here's what I give anybody interested over 40, whether you work out or not. This is what I give them all. So the celebrities that I got Derek on here, that you send them all down to me. And we still do work with celebrities getting ready for movies, the most famous movie stars and their CEOs. This is what I create for them, and this is what they all do. And all the things we just looked at, there's the order. You can see the creatine in there. They're on it, even if they don't work out. Most of your celebrities and all your top CEOs in the world, they do exercise regularly. They're always looking for the fountain of youth. So this is the foundation fountain of youth. And then I'll interject as they get past 40. I'll make sure they're all using the amino formula during their workout to keep the muscle breakdown from happening. So there you go. So I put that there. You can print that for yourselves. And all these links are live. You can listen to them. So here's what the fitness health cabinet, aging cabinet looks like. It looks like this when you're using all these things. I put a little one-liners next to it. You have this deck, guys. Make sure you know that. So here you go. So we didn't just solve it like we did when we looked at the last one. You just crushed it when you add those, and you're getting all there. So it's just the next level in youth preserving when you add some stuff like creatine. And again, you don't do that. I don't give anybody creatine unless you're doing baseline. What's the point? It doesn't make any sense to build a foundation without putting stuff on a foundation. So bottom line is, this is it. This is what we accomplished, the undisputed cornerstones. We met nutrient recommendation. That drives our regular activity and gets that body composition where we want. So achieving our fitness goals, lifelong independence, and helping avoid big pharma. That's what it's all about, every bit of it. So my dream before I die, I'm 73 now, so I'm definitely in the fourth quarter. Anyway, you look at it, never been on medication in my life for anything other than painkillers after an athletic surgery, of course. And that's only for a few days, and I just start drinking again. So I can use that for my anesthesia. But you got the health cabinet. This is it right there. I got a health cabinet. That's what I got versus the medicine cabinet that looks like the rest of our world here. Right. So we got the protection before drugs. That's what it's all about. It doesn't cost anything to do stuff on the left. It's going to cost you a hell of a lot more than just money on the right. We know that. And there's all the things we just looked at that we can add that hopefully keep us from ever having to do this stuff on the right. That's what it's about. It's about protection, it's about prevention. This is not treatment. Treatment is drugs. That's after the fact, and I get it. And there's times when you have to use it. But if you do all this, you can stave off 2/3 of anything going down with anybody. So this is what it's all about. At the end of the day, I'll die a happy man if I see that in every household around the world. And then, but you guys are lucky enough to be there at Health Tracks. You can work with their staff now. They're the experts out there. They've gone through the certifications just like you just went through, except obviously in a little more detail, right? Or even work with their staff later. It's your choice, but it's easy. We can just make that happen. Protection before the drug approach, what it comes down to. So this is my final note here, and then we'll end this whole thing with we'll do Q&A. I'll stay on for as long as you want, but I just want to, this is my final note on everything you just looked at. The micronutrient intake we just looked at, right? At known optimal levels, whether it be the RDAs or the new subject experts. RDAs are kind of old fashioned, but if no one even gets that, okay? For life, starting with the prenatal, as I just called out, should help retard normal aging. I mean, it's not like a trick mathematical equation. It's pretty obvious, leading to a longer health and play span. After all, if these vitamins and minerals and other micronutrients are the actuators of all human metabolism and created us in the first place, and they're necessary to maintain the structure daily, we need that many, why wouldn't a daily complete load preserve us better than lesser amounts? Well, again, certainly all mammals eventually die. But there's something interesting. When I did my thesis on vitamins and minerals and so forth, I read this thing from George Williams, 1957. So I didn't read it in 57. Okay. All right, you ready? It's remarkable. Here's what he said. It's remarkable. I just love this, that after a seemingly, because it sets me up perfectly, a seemingly miraculous feat of morphogenesis, which is the creation from a little seed into this human being, that a complex metazoan like us should be unable to perform the much simpler task of maintaining what's already formed. I think about that for a minute from what you just learned. Well, here's my comment to that. Well, since micronutrients created us in the first place and maintains us, maybe by maintaining the currently known optimal micronutrient intake throughout life from a simple, inexpensive task of dietary supplementation that corrects food delivery insufficiencies and helps offset the environmental insults in this place we live in, the organism may slow its inevitable deterioration of all of our functional characteristics that happens to everybody today, giving us a better chance of at least remaining functional until the end. And by the way, the existing logic, you just saw it, right? All supported by peer-reviewed science. Logic and data on the benefits of that practice is strong enough without risk. Waiting for universal consensus because you got competing disciplines. I mean, a big pharma doesn't want you to know this stuff. They can't sell drugs for half the shit they sell it for. It's always going to be too late to get a consensus. This is just logic. It's just 101 math. Okay, so guys, I know we only got like 10 minutes left, so this is what we've got at the end here. This is the next level. So listen, I'm going to stay around as long as you want to ask questions. So hopefully put something in the chat. Frankie, you're looking there if you find anything there. But really, this is really the next level all the way around because this is very popular. People in my orbit are doing it. But full disclosure, I have never done peptides or hormone therapy. Now, obviously, if you look at my pictures from bodybuilding days, I definitely did a lot of hormone therapy back then. My last 10 years of competition from 30 to 40, yes, I used steroids regularly because that was just part of the sport. I mean, you don't turn into a 270-pound freak from 230 pounds. I did compete nationally for many years, but you get to that next level, to the top rung, and that was just part of the sport. I'm not condoning that for anything. Lucky I went cold turkey after I retired. Never looked back. So I've never taken peptide therapy. People in my orbit, yes. Have I recommended it? After everything else is done, yes. from what I've seen, because it probably can't hurt you. So I'm going to give you my take, the science take, my take from real world experiences with the people in my orbit and so forth. Because this is the people that want to stay young forever. They just jump to this right away. So real quick, the newest purported anti-aging ingredient supplement, hormone replacement therapy, peptide therapy, and then of course your weight loss drugs. These are what we're looking at today that you're dealing with. You're being bombarded with it. First of all, there's all kinds of considerations. Why are you doing it in the first place? Have you exhausted your exercise and nutrition path? What's the physiological state of the person using it? Okay, what's the risk-benefit ratio? And is the logic, based on strength? So when are you free to explore? So I just ignore the noise. This is the first thing I want to do. I always got to put this ahead of everything. Avoid internet distraction or unqualified friendly advice like we talked about. Don't jump to your peptide therapy. Don't jump to hormone replacement therapy or other highly publicized anti-aging therapies. They're all over the place until your baseline metabolism program has been reset. Hopefully you'll never have to do any of this. Now look, first of all, here's why. Many are ineffective unless you're undernourished in the first place. Well, you're not going to be undernourished when you have a full metabolism. So most will be unnecessary when metabolism full throttle, such as nicotinamide mononucleotide, nicotinamide adenosine dinucleotide. These things are all over the news. You see them everywhere. You got influencers promoting this stuff. HMB. Why would you need that if you've got enough? If you got the other aminos and you've got everything else there. Resveratrol. You've got the other more important antioxidants than resveratrol, or then you've got ergothioneine. You got methylene blues. This new one that's out there. Your lithium. These are all these things. That spirulina. When you're taking you got all this stuff is going to be washed out for the most part when you've done everything right. But the bottom line is they all have a thread of truth, and that's but it's the physiological context. Who's taking it? Is it someone that has not done all the right stuff in the first place? So you can't even think about it for this, again, until you finish your 6-month program. The second reason, because most of them you're not going to need, the second reason is if warranted, added therapy is only going to work better. Because now that is a true limiting factor of why you're not functioning at the top. So a fully functioning metabolism, which you will have, because you would never build on top of a weak foundation. Why would you take creatine if you're not getting enough protein? How are you going to build the muscle that you're trying to keep? So it doesn't make any sense. Something's going to give later on. Our native Indians had the best example of that. That's called empty fire. You're making a fire that flashes, but there's nothing to sustain it. And that's what we're talking about here. So that's the second reason. The third is, how you make your decision on choosing what's next. Is it a need or a want? Because you can always manage data for your own convenience, right? If you want something to be true, it can be true. That's how Google makes a living. All right. So it doesn't mean it works. So bottom line, though, there are going to be natural, safe, effective discoveries. They're going to happen. But it's really the physiological state of the human being. So if your metabolism is not all the reset, then certainly something's going to make a difference. But if it's reset, it probably won't. To most of the stuff anyway, that determines the outcome following the administration. Right? Baseline supplementation washes out the potential efficacy of most of your Google search influencer-friendly advice products. By doing that, you're going to wash out the effects of most of those. Now, there's obviously hormone therapy. We're not talking about that. And there's some peptide therapy, maybe, of course, that jumps over. So your take home, ready? What I tell people in my orbit when they come to me about this, because everybody wants to do it. Other than necessary prescribed medication that you may be using to treat acute, and that medication could be a supplement that your doctor wants you to take for something. But of course, obviously, your prescribed regular stuff from pharma or whatever your doctor's doing to treat acute and chronic condition that you may have. You've got that. Ditch your other supplements and withhold any purported anti-aging therapies I'm going to show you here until your nutrition is whole. So at the end of the day, here's what you got. The rationale for metabolism reset before the hormone therapy, which we're going to look at, peptide treatments, is not just the overall health benefit the treatments cannot provide, because they can't provide an overall health benefit, but to also offset any potential future payback at empty fire. In other words, no one lives forever. So you just keep taking it, you just keep living to be 110, 120, 130, 140, and you still feel and look the same. No one lives forever. So we don't know long-term out there. But so here's the thing, right? Here's your take. After 6 months of restructuring your metabolism, so your cellular health is as good as it can be. Thus your infrastructure with at least the minimum, that's all we're looking at down below. That's the minimum, right? I'm not asking you to do any of this stuff. And your fitness is not on par with other fit and healthy, active persons around your age, hormone therapy and peptide treatments can be explored. Ideally, any treatment should be based on blood work and related symptoms such as lethargy, sleep disorders, sex drive, chronic pain, unmanageable weight gain, etc. Otherwise, you and Google are on your own to guess, okay? But based on hard and empirical data, I'll give you my take. And by the way, like I said, I've never done peptide therapy or this, obviously, aging hormone therapy, because, again, I don't need to. Now, however, my doctor, I have to get a physical every year because they got this key man insurance shit on me on it. They have to make sure everything's good, right? And it is. They always tell me you got the blood of a 17-year-old, but the bottom line is, my testosterone levels were like at that level. When we looked at it, these are the standard, and really testosterone levels vary depending on when you take it, right? But I had one day it was down. I got one of physicals, I was down around 300. Doctor, hey, listen, you're definitely a candidate for hormone therapy if you want. And I go, well, wouldn't I have to have some other risk factor with it? Like sex drive, lethargy. And he goes, yeah, how's that? Or atrophy. I go, no, I'm exactly the way I was, 30, 40, 50 years ago. He goes, okay, well, then you don't need it. But you see, they're always going to go there first. So anyway, I put the numbers up here for anybody that cares. Standard testosterone, we're talking about men here. And by the way, women are different. I mean, you get to, when you talk about menopause, you're talking about hormone therapy. That's a whole nother conversation far beyond my pay grade. That's very deep. My wife's going through menopause now, and, it's just one of those really tough, things when you're dealing with hormone therapy there. There's just so many other things, but for men, it's easy. Bottom line is there's the numbers there, warranted clinical therapy guidelines. You really need 2 fasted mornings. So, by the way, the next time I got my testosterone checked, it was 500. That was a year later. It just depends. The levels vary. If you want to do it accurately, 2 separate fasted mornings, which no one's going to do. But anyway, so if you end up here, right in here, and you have those symptoms, low energy, fatigue, reduced libido, accelerated atrophy, then of course, restoration appears safe and effective. This is the latest science now for testosterone deficient men, but not necessarily for those that don't meet that criteria up there. So here's the latest. I just put this in here for you guys. This is the latest, most updated conclusion about testosterone therapy because it's so common now. It's really studied. Back in the day, we always thought testosterone therapy in the older population, and even men that, and of course, for even deficient men, that it led to accelerated cardiovascular disease or cardiovascular events. Well, it turns out they go deeper into it, and it doesn't. In fact, it may be protective against it, but it also offers these testosterone deficient men metabolic and longevity benefits. So it's a good thing for that group. And when it looks at the newest picture, the most latest conclusion, for men with normal testosterone, it's not recommended by evidence-based science. Okay, it's not recommended. There's really no evidence to benefit for that person. Again, you could argue how much you're getting, and maybe you get a benefit, but it's going to be short-lived. And there's a potential for unnecessary risk. And I put that down here. I think everybody's at the mindset now, it's not going to cause a condition, but it could exacerbate an unknown existing one. You might have cancer festering somewhere in prostate. No one's seen it or got anything yet, doesn't show up in a blood test, but it could be existing and it could be happening, and this may accelerate. And that was the only reason, if you have normal testosterone, kind of a warning against it. So there's your hormone therapy and the take on all that. And again, if you're doing it for vanity reasons, or you're doing it for aging, or you're doing it because it's necessary, I'm not judging on that. I can't tell you how many people in my orbit do it no matter what I tell them or how I tell them, even this. They'll do it for a short period of whatever. And again, I'm not. It's up to you, because it might make you feel better. It might make you, whatever, help you in your life. So no judgment there. And I'm not a doctor, so I'm not prescribing any of this stuff to anybody. I'm just letting you know the facts. I might know a little more than a doctor about some of this stuff. Not, again, giving therapy, but just from the people that we've worked with that use it and so forth. So lots of empirical data around that. Now on peptides, we'll close with this because this is really the hottest thing going, including our new Secretary of Health and so forth. They always talk about peptides, all this, but they're just what these things are. I'm only going to talk about the popular ones. They're short chains of amino acids. They occur in our foods and they're in our body. We make about 7,000 different peptides in our body. And what they do is they activate these receptors all through our body, promote the release of hormones and other compounds. And they affect all aspects of health and performance. And again, like everything else, our natural production just wanes as we get older. And that's led to peptide supplementation, just like we just looked at Testosterone therapy, obviously, it goes down right after puberty, by the way. It starts to go back in another direction. And then, so again, same thing with the peptide supplements, peptide production in our natural body. So we make them artificially, and they can be taken transdermally. You can put them on as a topical or by injection, or you can be taking them orally. And we'll talk about what's the best. But don't confuse these with the FDA-approved drug peptides like insulin or semaglutide, which are like, Wegovy and Zepbound and tirzepatide, all these things. These are what we call FDA-approved drug peptides. All right, the other ones are gray area. So, example, your GLPs, right? They're FDA-approved for diabetes, weight control, and related comorbidities. They're recommended for weight loss when conventional diet, along with proper dietary support, which no one does. And when the doctor gives it to you, they're not giving you the protein or micronutrients you need, which would get them over this. And then when those methods fail, okay, but then you would use that. You would use your drugs when those things have failed many times. But it's also frontline therapy, whether you failed or not, to help with what it was really certain health corrections, like you've got your diabetes and so forth. This is the first thing, and then diet and exercise are just recommended along with it. So those are, don't confuse it with any of that. And that's when you use these things. I'm a fan of this drug for people that just can't get it done. I can't tell you how many people are on it. Some people that don't even need it are on it. It just cuts their appetite, makes their life easier when it comes to stuff. I'm not promoting it at all, because I'm always promoting dietary, supplements along with because you got to supplement your micronutrients and protein supplementation along with proper exercise and proper calories. And now you've got the perfect score. But some people just can't do that, and they've tried and failed. And it's because they have genetics as far as appetite control. So these drugs are really lifesavers for many people. So I'm not putting them down at all. But again, a little different recommendation. I just put this in. This is something else. All right. So this is what we're talking about. Common gray area, popular peptides marketed for muscle growth, weight loss, anti-aging. These are all things you're seeing all over the internet today. Everybody asks me about them nonstop. There's very little direct evidence to back up most of the claims I'm going to show you, but basically anecdotal. And if you look down the red there, most of these claims are extrapolated from studies using real GH, not secretagogues or things that make GH work or supplements. So most of these claims are taken that way. So Sermorelin is probably one of the big ones out there right now, and it combined it with a couple other ones. They call it the big trio for triggering, of your body to make more growth hormones. These are what we call growth hormone secretagogues. A secretagogue is just something that promotes secretion, and in this case, it's growth hormone. Okay, so then you got your CJC 1295. It releases, again, it works different. These are just different mechanisms. Some work in the pituitary, some work in the hypothalamus. They're just mimicking certain peptides your body makes to trigger more GH release. The big one here that is a big one is your BPC, and we've used this for our athletes during injuries and so forth. I've seen some great results from it, but again, you don't go straight to it. Without your foundation, it just doesn't work well. So we can right across the board. If you're not doing your baseline stuff, this thing's not going to probably hardly work for you at all. Do that along with this. If you're still having issues when it comes to injury recovery, then this can make a difference. But it boosts injury recovery. And doesn't it what it does, it upbreaks, actually this thing here, by the way, we make it naturally in our gut too. It upregulates the receptors in the tissues that are healing. So more growth hormone gets there, and just good things happen from that. And then your LR3, this actually is almost straight to IGF-1, because that's really where all this action happens. Growth hormone uses IGF-1 as the thing to do all the work. Growth hormone just tells it what to do. Then you got your 677, which is a non-peptide that also increases growth hormone production again. From a different mechanism. So I just put those mechanisms there for anybody that's interested, whether you want to. I put a picture in here. This up here just shows you how it works naturally in the body. Your growth hormone here, how it affects and how IGF-1 works. This is the production site where they make it. This is the trigger, main action, and so forth. So think of growth hormone as a general contractor, and IGF-1 does all the work. So it's just telling IGF-1 what to do down there. Now, when you supplement, you're just jumping past all this. It gets in. That's why you have to inject it. These orals don't work. If you're buying orals, they're not going to work. It goes in here and it hits these different spots here. Now, if you're using growth hormone by itself, there's a lot of athletes do, then of course it's going straight to growth hormone. And then IGF-1 is right in here. And then that just kind of shows you how the supplements come in and they increase the growth hormone production through the hypothalamus and pituitary. And then the LR3 actually is IGF-1. It mimics IGF-1. So it goes straight in to here and gets down to business right there. So that's one of the more popular ones as well for building muscle. And again, I'm not saying this stuff works all that well. I'm just telling you this. And again, these are injectables now. And I put the IGF-1 levels in here. We don't measure GH levels really because they pulse. It's really not. IGF-1 really tells you how well your GH is working. So that's really the levels we kind of look at. Okay, so let's close this down. Current takeaway on these peptide therapies. Don't entertain before completing your 6-month metabolism restructuring optimization unless clinically necessary. Moreover, because to get the full potential of any of these benefits we just looked at from therapy, you need your metabolism at full throttle. Because remember, the peptide therapy can't deliver the overall health benefit, meaning there's probably going to be a payback if you're just sticking it on top of a weak foundation. If you're still compelled, don't expect too much, which is why these things is probably safe. Injections would be the choice of administration to bypass digestion. And every doctor, everybody agrees with that. And now, and again, of course, if you're a drug tested athlete, like my 2 boys, one actually made it to the NFL and the other one, professional fighter. Yes, I raised a violent family. You can't use these things because they're illegal in pro sports for when they check. But these things can be expensive, anywhere from $200 to $1,200, depending on how you're doing it. And you're working with, for anything that's going to work. And if you're working with blood, it's going to be much higher than that. But the people in our orbit, my orbit, there's no financial limitations. These are the CEOs of the biggest companies in the world. So, you ready? Regardless of the current lack of documented efficacy of the gray area specific peptide therapy we looked at, it shows promise. I would agree with that. As scientists continue to refine the structures, the sizes, the half-life, the reason these last longer than our regular natural production, because when they put them together synthetically, that what they do is they just move the sequence a little bit so that the enzyme in the body doesn't break it down. So the half-life can be all day compared to just a couple hours of the natural ones. That's how they keep it in there so long. So the half-life, the delivery systems that can get to the active target tissues and stay there longer. And then, of course, because peptides mimic natural substances, this is why I'm okay with it. When they're metabolized in the body, in other words, the half-life's over, you're breaking them down. They're not like other drugs. When you break down other drugs you take in, they're not peptide drugs. Of course, when you break them down, your liver's, targeting out. People that take Advil, Tylenol, any of these things, your liver has to wears down eventually if you're taking it daily. It can shorten your life in a short course because you have to metabolize. These don't have to be done that way. Their constituent amino acids can be recycled with little and no stress on organism metabolism. That's why you probably can't hurt yourself if you were experimenting with it, depending on how much you're doing. Okay, we are done. I know I went 5 minutes long, but I put a bunch of stuff back here for your library. So that's all on your deck. Let me undo here. I do have a question, though, for everybody here. Okay.
All right, so we did have a couple people that had to leave.
Okay.
And some of the people that had questions are no longer on. So I don't know if you want me to go over those still.
Yeah, go ahead though. For anybody else that's there.
Okay. One of the questions were, I work out in the morning at 6 a.m. I usually don't eat until about 8:30 or 9. Is that problematic?
Yeah. So if that's the way you like to go, the best thing to do if you can is have a shake in the morning when you get out of bed. That'll digest in 30 minutes, 40 minutes. If you don't want to go that far because you're you're doing it on purpose, kind of fasting before you go in, which is not a great idea, by the way, because you got to break that fast. Just take a shot of aminos. Break the fast with aminos and you'll be good to go.
Okay, and then somebody had said, which this could be a longer conversation than what we have, but can you talk a little bit more about intermittent fasting? How many hours between meals to be effective?
Well, I mean, there's 8-hour windows and there's 16-hour windows generally. Those are kind of the windows So, I mean, really, I think that, 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of fasting, whatever they may be, they're alternate. And then there's alternate day fasting as well, where you get to have like 600 calories one day and then a full amount, anything you want to eat another day. So there's all types of different ones there. The only thing I like about it, because it does work, there's no question about it when it comes to weight control. What I mean by that is because you can't eat that much in your window. So if you have an 8-hour window that you get to eat all your food for the day, you only eat so many calories. So it does automatically cut your calories that way, but it's not, again, you wouldn't want to do that if it's about, sort of anti-aging, getting muscle and building muscle and so forth. And it's not the best thing for that, but it's great. It's really a good way of having people kind of not have to count calories to do it. So that's all you need to do. Just kind of, you can do an alternate day fasting, or you can do, intermittent fasting, during the day where you've got like an 8-hour window to eat.
Awesome. And then I think the last question, which seems like a fairly easy answer, is have the trainers been trained on how and when to take the supplements you have just educated us on? I want to follow the optimal procedures of when to take these.
Okay. Yes, they have. They have it all. Yeah. Now they have it all on your deck right here too, as well. I mean, the trainers all definitely have it.
Awesome. And then I think that's it for the chat as of this moment. So.
Okay, cool. Victoria, Tim?
We are asking the room right now if anybody's got anything. Anybody got anything? We all good?
About pharmaceuticals, pills, blood pressure pills.
Yeah.
So, there's something I learned on the internet. Because I take amlodipine. Well, I was kind of looking into what was in it. Of course, it's not enough to hurt you right then, but over time, as
I'm guessing you'll be able to repeat that. I can't hear anything.
Yeah, I'll translate.
Okay.
in the medicine will be harmful to a 60 or 70-year-old person. It might not be for a 30-year-old, but over the time as it builds up, it can become a problem. So it's kind of what I was wondering about.
For blood pressure meds, right?
Yeah,
For blood pressure meds, which one are you taking?
amlodipine.
The amlodipine, if it's
Amlodipine?
70 years, like when you're 70 years old or whatever,
Mhm.
build up, could it cause more problems?
Like if you're 70 or older, is a constant buildup of it, would that cause problems? And like older, like blood pressure meds and things like that.
Did you, I can hear something.
Yeah, here.
There you go.
Yeah.
I got you.
Okay, so blood pressure meds in like older individuals, specifically over the age of 70, is like enough of it after a while going to end up doing more harm than good.
It really depends on which one they're using. Yeah, those aren't peptides. At the end of the day, it's always when it comes to medicine, when it comes to prescription medications, it's about the risk benefit. Is there a benefit above the risk? And almost any, I don't care what you're taking, blood pressure medication, whether it's a statin, for cholesterol, whether it's, a beta blocker, it doesn't matter. It's taxing the liver, it's stressing it. But it's got to do that to keep you alive because you haven't prevented it, it happened. So now you have to treat it. Now, hopefully you can maybe lower that once you start getting in shape and so forth. But yeah, those are things that are going to stress the metabolism for sure. But it fixes you in the meantime.
Yeah, speaking of that, can you hear me, Neal?
Yes.
Yeah, and for that question, I'm 73. 4 years ago, I had a heart attack, a widowmaker that only 12% survived. Thank God, a great surgeon at the medical center there in Westwood saved my ass and put me on a lot of heart meds. And so I said, is it okay if I keep taking my nutritional supplements? And he goes, well, it depends what you're using. And I said, well, the best. It's my buddy Neal Spruce, and they're as good as it gets. He said, "Can you bring him in to my office and let me look at him?" So I brought all my dotFIT stuff in, and he looked at every single label and he goes, "Wow, these are good." He said, "Yeah, go ahead and continue on with these." And I kid Neil all the time, but I'm somewhat serious. I feel like dotFIT keeps me going, and I feel better than ever. 3 stents put in me, and every day I don't miss any of my dotFIT stuff that he was talking about. And I'm very lucky. So just wanted to say you can go through that and still be alive and carry on. And I'll be drinking with Neil in about 45 minutes for Whiskey Wednesday.
Right. That's right. That's right. For Whiskey Wednesday, we always hook up for that. I love it. Love it. But that's one of the other things. I mean, by having the help that you had right going into that thing, it probably was a big part of saving your life because
Yeah.
everything was so easy to mend. That was the big deal there. Yeah.
Very good. Good
Yeah.
point.
So, Tim, what else you got there?
One more on testosterone. Hit me,
Yeah, of
Steve.
course.
Testicular cancer, so surgical procedure to remove the testicle. Then I had the second one atrophied. So I'm like 17 is my number without any support. So daily andro to stay at like 450. I mean, is that something that's the rest of my life with that supplement, or?
It sounds like it. I mean, I'd have to know. You have to know a little more. And again, your doctor's got that. They're monitoring you regularly. Oh, your medication, right?
Without the medicine, I go right back down to, low double digits. With the medicine, I'm in like that 400, 450 range.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, probably. There's nothing wrong with getting a little bit lower than that. I mean, as you get older, of course, I don't know. How old are you?
59.
I missed it.
59.
59. Okay, yeah. So again, that's a pretty good number. That's a good solid place to be. And yeah, and again, you're talking about, if you're doing like hormone therapy like that, that's not, and it's an injectable, I'm guessing.
Daily gel.
It's a daily gel.
Yeah, daily gel. Yeah, you're going to be fine. And it's really not taxing. It's not going after your organs, really. I mean, especially when it's being monitored that close. As long as it's not aromatizing, your doctor's got that under control.
Okay, thanks.
Sweet. I think that's all we got for you, Neil.
Well, that's cool.
We have it all here. We have it all here, health checks. Yep, we have everything. Yep, we got it all. So where's the best place to get the supplements? It's right here.